Death by fire. Auto safety experts say that is what happened to dozens of people who perished in fiery crashes involving late models of the Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Now the government is expanding its investigation into these vehicles and others. 9 wants you to know why some are calling this a life and death safety issue. For over a year, our Leslie Foster has been investigating the claims made about these popular SUVs.
Anita and Derek, the questions center around the safety of the 1993 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokees. This is one of them. If you look in this hatch area, you'll see all the documents senior producer Stephanie Wilson and I have poured through. The consumer group, the Center for Auto Safety, believes the placement of the gas tank seen here can lead to fires and deaths. But Chrysler maintains its vehicles are safe.
She's pretty young when she left the house at age 18 and jumped on a plane and went on the other side of the ocean.
Stacy Meyer returned home from England a year older, and her family was happy to finally have her back. On a warm July day in 2007, she read some passages from her Bible, then set out to go exercise and take a friend to breakfast.
This was the friend that she was actually going to pick up. She walked out the door and drove up the hill, and about an hour later had the accident.
A driver having a seizure lost control on a Wisconsin state highway and slammed into the back of Stacy's 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
They ended up smashing into the guardrail on this side.
According to police accident reports and witness statements, the Jeep burst into flames.
You know, we were a family of 5. Now we're a family of 4.
The people that are lucky survive. I mean, but there's absolute tragedies.
Clarence Ditlow heads up the Center for Auto Safety, a nonprofit here in Washington founded in 1970. His office petitioned the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 2009 to investigate crashes involving 1993 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokees like the one Stacy was driving. The center used the government's Fatal Analysis Research System, also known as FARS, to make their case. Using the FARS data, the Center for Auto Safety now counts at least 51 accidents where 72 people died in rear, side, and rollover crashes, and fire was the chief cause of their death.
You'll have a huge ball of fire, and people can't get out of the vehicles before they burn.
NHTSA granted the center's petition 2 years ago, but focused only on rear-end crashes. Just days ago, NHTSA took a step forward in their investigation, ordering an engineering analysis of the vehicles. In this Office of Defects investigation resume, NHTSA reports that 48 people died in fiery rear-end crashes. But NHTSA officials pointed out that not all of the people who died were in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Some were in the vehicle that struck the SUV. It is one of the key factors that convinced NHTSA to upgrade its safety defect investigation. Chrysler's response to the expanded probe is that the Jeep Grand Cherokee is no riskier than its closest competitors.
What would you tell people who have this vehicle?
I would tell them, if at all possible, get another vehicle.
Chrysler says 1.8 million of these vehicles are still out on the roads. Ditlow wants all of them recalled. Auto experts say the problem is where the plastic fuel tank is positioned, behind the rear axle. You can see it right here in this Jeep Grand Cherokee. In the 1993 to 98 models, the fuel tank looks like a spare tire well, but this plastic tank filled with gallons of fuel literally hangs down exposed with no protection. A brush guard covers the gas tank in the 1999 to 2004 models. It is supposed to protect the plastic tank in low speeds from brush and other obstructions, but experts say it's not enough. The placement of the tank is simply too risky.
It's in the crush zone of any vehicle striking it from behind. And the vehicle that strikes it will push on that gas tank, and any number of very bad things can happen.
In an effort to move the investigation forward, the Center for Auto Safety asked the Federal Highway Administration to conduct rear impact tests on a 1995 Jeep Grand Cherokee. They used a non-flammable liquid in the tests to demonstrate what can happen when the gas tank ruptures.
You'll begin to see the gasoline right there coming out of the fuel tank, and it's vaporizing and producing a mist, and it's a perfect source for combustion. You can see there's not much damage to the Grand Cherokee itself, but there's the gasoline. You're surviving the trauma of the crash, but you could burn to death.
Chrysler says the crash tests conducted on its Jeep Grand Cherokee were conducted 20 miles per hour faster than the fuel standard required at the time the vehicle was manufactured. That was 30 miles an hour. FHWA also tested one of the Grand Cherokee's peer vehicles, the Ford Explorer. The tests on this 1995 model were conducted at even higher speeds, at 70 and 75 miles per hour, and the gas tank did not rupture. We should point out that the gas tank in the Explorer is placed in front of the rear axle.
We took a mission trip as a family when she was like a junior in high school down to Mexico. We worked in an orphanage, and she just loved it. And
The impact occurred and Stacy's car rolled multiple times.
You can still see the gas line where fuel poured out of Stacy's car here at the scene. But what gives the Myers some measure of comfort is knowing that Stacy likely was unaware of what would happen after she was hit.
NHTSA would not talk on camera because of their ongoing investigation and has not given any timetable for when they will reach a decision. But in their ODI resume, NHTSA says that rear impact-related tank failure and vehicle fires are more prevalent in the Jeep Grand Cherokee than in non-Jeep peer vehicles. And just last week, NHTSA added the 1993 to 2001 Jeep Cherokee and the 2002 to 2007 Jeep Liberty vehicles to their investigation. Those vehicles also had the gas tank behind the rear axle. NHTSA said the agency's analysis of its FARS data for the peer vehicles and 3 Jeep models shows a higher incidence of rear impact fatal fire crashes for the Jeep products. Chrysler disagrees. In a statement, the company tells 9 News Now the 1993 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokees are neither defective nor do their fuel systems pose an unreasonable risk to motor safety in rear impact collisions. And they say rear impacts resulting in fire are extremely rare. Rear impacts resulting in a fire occur no more often in 1993 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee vehicles than in peer vehicles. And the 1993 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee vehicles are at no greater risk of exposure to fire in rear-end collisions than peer vehicles. As for the expanded investigation, the company said, we expect that a similar analysis of subject vehicles recently added to this investigation, which NHTSA generally conducts at the engineering analysis stage, would support a similar conclusion.
I just wonder if any of their children, had been lost in a car where there was a poor design, how they'd feel about just nothing being done.
Do you believe that Stacy would be alive today, potentially, had she not been in that vehicle?
I think so, yes. Yeah.
In 2005, Chrysler moved the gas tank in the Jeep Grand Cherokee ahead of the rear axle. The company tells us they did that to make more room for cargo space. Chrysler is cooperating with the expanded probe and says it's important to note that this is just an investigation, not a recall.
All right, but we also should note, as you just said, they moved that gas tank. So the question is, how many people have been killed in those rear-end crashes since they made that move?
Well, according to the Center for Auto Safety, none. They tell us not one person has died a fiery death as a result of the fuel tank in the 2005 models going forward.
All right, let's talk about the scope of this. Many of the models in question are more than 10 years old. What's the estimates of how many are still on the road?
Okay, we know that there are at least 23,000 of the 93 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokees that are still registered for use in D.C. and Maryland combined. Virginia does not keep records on a particular make and model. And I should tell you, these accidents are still happening. According to police records, one man died back in November of last year on Interstate 4 in Lake Mary, Florida, when he could not get out of a burning Jeep. And a 4-year-old boy in Bainbridge, Georgia died on March 6th of this year when the Jeep Grand Cherokee he was in was struck from behind and caught fire. Now, the Center for Auto Safety asked for both of these incidents to be included in NHTSA's investigation.
Okay.
Well, coming up tomorrow night at 11 o'clock, you're going to hear from a Chrysler whistleblower who will talk more about a potential solution and why he says the company knew about problems before these SUVs even went into production. And if you go to our consumer section of our website, WUSA9.com, you can read documents from the NHTSA investigation into the 1993 to 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee, as well as Chrysler's statement about the expanded probe.
Wow, great work and powerful information consumers need to know.
Our consumer team worked hard on this one.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you, Leslie. Looking forward to tomorrow night.
Thanks.